3 seconds. That is exactly how long it took for the laughter in the private VIP room to die. 1 minute, they were the masters of the universe, billionaires, titans of Wall Street, mocking a waitress for her cheap shoes and trembling hands. They thought it was a game. They thought forcing her to review a billion-dollar merger was the ultimate joke. But when she finally spoke, she didn't just ruin their fun. She dismantled their entire empire with 6 words. This is the story of Leo, the waitress who knew too much, and the CEO who realized too late that he was standing in the presence of a predator. The air in the private dining room of Le Veau d'Or smelled of white truffles, aged cognac, and raw, unadulterated arrogance. It was the smell of money. Old money, new money, and money that didn't care about the laws of God or man. Leo adjusted the collar of her stiff black uniform, keeping her eyes lowered. Rule number 1 of high-end service: you are furniture. You are a ghost. You appear when a glass is empty, and you vanish when business is discussed. But tonight, vanishing was impossible. At the head of the mahogany table sat Lina Sterling. At 34, Sterling was the youngest hedge fund manager in New York history to manage a portfolio worth over $50 billion. He was handsome in a terrifying way, sharp jawline, eyes the color of cold steel, and a smile that didn't reach them. He was the CEO of Sterling Capital, and tonight he was celebrating the acquisition of a lifetime. To his right sat Julian Thorne, a heavy-set man with a flushed face and a loud, braying laugh. Thorne was Sterling's rival-turned-partner for this deal. "I'm telling you, Lina," Thorne shouted, swirling his 50-year-old scotch. "The tech sector is bleeding out, but Solaris Tech, they're bulletproof. This merger is going to put me on the cover of Forbes again." Sterling swirled his wine, looking bored. "The valuation is high, Julian. Their PE ratio is sitting at 45. That's optimistic, even for a bull market." "Optimism is for poor people, Lina. We sell certainty." Thorne slammed his hand on the table, making the silverware jump. Leo moved in silently to clear the appetizer plates. Her hands were steady, despite the exhaustion gnawing at her bones. It was her double shift. Her feet were blistered, and her mind was racing with the unpaid electricity bill sitting on her kitchen counter in Queens. "Hey, you!" Thorne barked, snapping his fingers inches from Leo's face. Leo froze. She swallowed hard, forcing a polite smile. "Yes, sir? Would you like another pour?" Thorne laughed, turning to the other 4 men at the table. "Look at her, a deer in headlights. You think she knows what a PE ratio is, Lina?" Sterling didn't look up from his phone. "Leave the staff alone, Julian. Focus on the deal." No, I want to see something," Thorne sneered, his eyes glinting with malice. He grabbed a heavy leather binder from the table, the confidential prospectus for the Solaris Tech merger, and shoved it into Leo's hands. The binder was heavy. Stamped in red across the front were the words, "Confidential, eyes only, Goldman Sachs and Sterling Capital." "Read it," Thorne commanded. The room went quiet. The other executives chuckled nervously. "Sir, I really need to clear the—" Leo started, her voice barely a whisper. "I said read it," Thorne interrupted, grinning. "We need a layman's perspective, the common man's view. Tell me, darling, based on this summary page, should Lina here invest $2 billion into this company, or should we buy you a new apron instead?" The laughter that followed was sharp and cruel. It was the sound of men who had never been told no. Leo looked at Lina Sterling. He was finally looking at her. He didn't look amused, but he didn't stop it either. He leaned back, his eyes narrowing, studying her like a biological specimen. "Go on," Sterling said softly. His voice was deep, smooth, and dangerous. "Humor him. Read the executive summary. Give us your investment advice. If you make me laugh, I'll tip you $1,000. $1,000. That was 2 months of rent. Leo felt a cold knot form in her stomach. She looked down at the document. Her eyes scanned the page. It was standard corporate formatting. Revenue projections, EBITDA adjustments, projected synergies. To the average person, it was gibberish. But Leo wasn't the average person. As her eyes traced the lines of the balance sheet on page 3, something happened. The fatigue vanished. Her brain, dormant for 3 years, suddenly woke up. The numbers didn't look like ink on paper. They looked like patterns, like music. She saw the cash flow discrepancies in the third quarter. She saw the heavy reliance on level 3 assets, assets that were hard to value and easy to fake. She saw the footnote about a subsidiary in the Cayman Islands. She realized what this was. "Well," Thorne jeered, "cat got your tongue? Or are the words too big?" Leo closed the binder slowly. She took a deep breath. She looked up, and for the first time she didn't look at the floor. She looked directly into Lina Sterling's cold, grey eyes. "You shouldn't buy it," she said. Her voice was steady. The room erupted in laughter again. Thorne slapped the table. "She says no. The waitress says no. Oh, this is rich. Why, darling, is the logo not pretty enough?" Leo didn't smile. She walked around the table, grabbed a marker from the whiteboard they had been using, and turned to the glass wall overlooking Manhattan. "Because," Leo said, her voice cutting through the laughter like a razor blade, "Solaris Tech is cooking their books." The laughter died instantly. Julian Thorne's smile froze. "Excuse me?" Lina Sterling sat up straight. The bored expression vanished, replaced by a hawk-like intensity. "Explain," he commanded. "And be careful. That's a publicly traded company you're accusing of fraud." Leo felt the adrenaline flooding her system. It was a familiar high, the same rush she used to feel at 4 a.m. in the glass towers of downtown, analyzing emerging markets before the sun came up. "Page 4, Section 2, Leo said, tapping the binder. "Solaris claims a 20% year-over-year growth in their semiconductor division. But if you look at their supply chain costs on page 12, their silicon procurement dropped by 15%. She turned to the men, her eyes blazing. "You can't increase chip production by 20% while buying 15% less raw material unless they discovered alchemy." Silence. Absolute, suffocating silence. One of the junior analysts at the end of the table frantically flipped through the pages. She's right, Mr. Sterling. The procurement numbers are down." Leo wasn't finished. She felt the old rhythm returning. "Furthermore," she continued, pointing at the chart she hadn't even fully read, but intuitively understood. "Look at their accounts receivable. It's ballooned. They are booking sales to shell companies that haven't paid them yet to inflate their revenue for this merger. It's the exact same strategy Enron used in 01, just wrapped in better legal jargon." She looked at Thorne. "You're not buying a tech giant, sir. You're buying a debt bomb wrapped in a Gucci ribbon." Thorne's face turned a violent shade of purple. He stood up, knocking his chair over. "Who the hell are you? Who sent you? Is it BlackRock? Did Vanguard send a spy in a maid's uniform?" Leo placed the binder gently back on the table. The magic faded, replaced by the crushing reality of her station. She was a waitress again. "I'm just the staff, sir," she whispered, stepping back. "I'll go get your check." "Sit down," Sterling said. It wasn't a request. "Mr. Sterling, I really have to get back to work." I said, "Sit down." Sterling gestured to the empty chair next to him. "Julian, shut up. Verify the supply chain numbers. Now." "Lina, you can't listen to this. This serving girl. She probably heard it on TikTok," Thorne sputtered. "Verify it," Sterling roared, his voice cracking like a whip. The junior analyst scrambled, laptops opening, fingers flying across keyboards. Sterling turned his gaze to Leo. He looked at her hands, rough, devoid of manicures. He looked at her shoes, cheap, worn-out soles. Then he looked at her eyes. They were intelligent, terrifyingly intelligent. "What is your name?" he asked quietly. "Leo." "Leo who?" She hesitated. "Leo Vance." Sterling's left eyebrow twitched, just a fraction. Vance. A common name. But you don't read balance sheets like a common person. You read that prospectus in 40 seconds and found a discrepancy my entire due diligence team missed in 3 weeks. Where did you learn that? "I read a lot," she lied. "Mr. Sterling," the junior analyst interrupted, his voice trembling. "I pulled the customs data for Solaris Tech's imports. It matches what she said. Their silicon imports crashed in Q3. There is no physical way they hit their production targets. The numbers they are impossible." Thorne dropped his glass. It shattered, splashing scotch onto the expensive Persian rug. Sterling didn't blink. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Cancel the wire transfer. Yes, the whole $2 billion. Initiate a freeze, and get the legal team to draft a withdrawal letter. Cause: material misrepresentation of assets." He hung up. He had just saved his firm $2 billion because of a waitress. He turned back to Leo. "You just saved me a fortune, and you cost Julian here a massive commission." Thorne was breathing heavily, glaring at Leo with pure hatred. "You little witch, you ruined everything." "I saved you from a federal indictment," Leo shot back, her patience snapping. "If you had signed that, the SEC would have been in your office by Monday morning." Sterling smirked, a genuine, dangerous smirk. "She's right, Julian. She owns you." Sterling reached into his suit jacket. He pulled out a checkbook. He wrote quickly, tore off the slip, and slid it across the table to her. $50,000, Sterling said. "Consulting fee. Take it." Leo looked at the check. It was more money than she made in 2 years. Her hand reached out, trembling. But before she could touch it, the restaurant manager, a frantic little man named Mr. Gorski, burst into the room. "Mr. Sterling, Mr. Thorne, I am so sorry," Gorski yelled, grabbing Leo by the arm. "Has this employee been bothering you? I saw her shouting. This is unacceptable." "She was just—" Sterling began. "She's fired," Gorski screamed, trying to save face before his billionaire clients. "Leo, get out. Get your things and leave immediately. You are banned from the premises." Leo pulled her arm away. She looked at the check on the table. Then she looked at Sterling. If she took the money, she was admitting she was just playing a game. If she took the money, she was a charity case. She didn't take the check. "Keep your money, Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice shaking but proud. "I gave you that advice for free. Consider it a tip." She turned and walked out of the room, past the stunned billionaires, past the furious manager, and out the back door into the cold, rainy New York night. Sterling stared at the door she had just exited. He looked at the check she left behind. "Find her," Sterling said to his head of security, who was standing in the shadows. "Sir?" "Find out who she is. Find out where she came from. And find out why a woman who understands forensic accounting better than my CFO is serving steak for minimum wage." It took Lina Sterling's private investigator, a former CIA operative named Cole, exactly 4 hours to put the file on Sterling's desk. It was 2 a.m. Sterling was in his penthouse overlooking Central Park. The city was asleep, but the markets never slept. The news of the failed Solaris merger had already leaked. Solaris stock was plummeting in pre-market trading in Tokyo. Sterling Capital had dodged a bullet that would have killed the firm. Sterling opened the manila folder labeled Subject, Leo Vance. He expected a story, He didn't expect a tragedy. "She's a ghost, boss," Cole said, standing by the window. "Legally, she barely exists." Sterling scanned the documents. Name: Leo Vance. Age 26. Education: Wharton School of Business, summa cum laude. Full scholarship. Sterling paused. Wharton. She was a prodigy. "Keep reading," Cole said. Employment history: Junior analyst, Archibald & Cubber, 2021-2022. Sterling frowned. Archibald & Co. was a mid-tier firm, known for aggressive, borderline illegal trading strategies. It was run by a shark named Victor Archibald. She was the fall guy, Cole explained. 3 years ago, Archibald & Co. got hit with an insider trading scandal involving pharmaceutical shorts. The SEC came down hard. Victor Archibald claimed he had no knowledge of the trades. He pinned the entire scheme on a rogue junior analyst. "Leo," Sterling whispered. "She was 23, Cole said. Fresh out of school. Archibald forged emails from her account. He made it look like she was the mastermind. She lost her license. She was blacklisted from every financial institution in the Western Hemisphere. She avoided jail time by pleading no contest to a lesser charge, but her career was executed publicly. Her father, a blue-collar guy from Queens, died of a heart attack the week the news broke. Stress. Sterling closed the file. He felt a cold rage simmering in his gut. He knew Victor Archibald. The man was a snake, and he knew how the game was played. You sacrifice the pawns to save the king. Leo wasn't a waitress because she lacked talent. She was a waitress because the system had chewed her up and spit her out to protect a wealthy man. "Where does she live?" Sterling asked. "A studio apartment in Astoria, above a laundromat. She's behind on rent. She takes care of her younger brother, who has medical issues. That's why she works double shifts." Sterling stood up and walked to the window. He looked at his reflection in the glass. He saw a man who had everything, saved by a woman who had nothing. "Get the car," Sterling said. "It's 2 a.m., boss," Cole noted. "I don't care. Prepare the contract, not a consulting fee, a job offer." "She won't take it, Lina. She hates our world. You saw how she looked at you. To her, you're just another Victor Archibald." "Then I'll make her an offer she can't refuse," Sterling said, buttoning his jacket. "Victor Archibald is trying to secure the funding for the Neo-Link infrastructure project next month, isn't he?" "Yes, it's his bid for the big leagues." "Good," Sterling smiled grimly. "Leo Vance hates me? Fine. But she hates Archibald more. I'm going to give her the one thing money can't buy." "What's that?" "A weapon." The rain in Queens didn't wash things clean. It just made the grime slicker. Leo climbed the 4 flights of stairs to her apartment, her legs burning. The smell of boiling cabbage and stale cigarette smoke clung to the hallway, a permanent reminder of where she was. She unlocked the 3 deadbolts on her door, locks she had installed herself, and stepped inside. It was small, a single room divided by a hanging sheet. But it was warm. "Leo," a weak voice called from behind the sheet. Leo's expression softened instantly. She dropped her bag, hiding the fact that her hands were shaking from the adrenaline of the night. "I'm here, Liam. Go back to sleep. Did you get the medicine?" Leo froze. The medicine. It was $80 a bottle. She had planned to buy it with her tips from tonight, but after getting fired, she had walked out in a daze, forgetting to cash out her share of the pool. She had nothing. "Tomorrow," she called out, her voice cracking slightly. The pharmacy was closed. I'll get it first thing." She walked to the tiny kitchenette and leaned against the sink, burying her face in her hands. She was done. Fired from the only high-end place that didn't do background checks, blacklisted. Rent was due in 3 days. Liam's condition was worsening. The genius who could dismantle a billion-dollar merger in seconds couldn't figure out how to buy a bottle of pills. Knock, knock, knock. The sound was authoritative. Heavy. Not the landlord, who pounded like he was trying to break the door down. This was a polite, terrifying knock. Leo grabbed the small paring knife from the counter. She moved silently to the door. "Who is it?" "Open the door, Leo." The voice was low, smooth, and unmistakable. It belonged to the man who had tipped her $50,000, a tip she had left on the table. She opened the door a crack, keeping the chain on. Linner Sterling stood in the dim hallway. He looked absurdly out of place. His Italian wool coat cost more than the entire building. Behind him, a massive bodyguard, the man named Cole, blocked the stairwell. "How did you find me?" Leo hissed. "I have resources. May I come in?" "No. You got me fired. Isn't that enough?" "I didn't get you fired. Your pride did. And that pride is currently costing you a great deal." Linner glanced past her, his eyes adjusting to the gloom. "Does Liam have his medication?" Leo went cold. She slammed the door, fumbling to unlock the chain, and ripped it open, pointing the knife at his chest. "If you touched him, if you even looked at him—" Linner didn't flinch. He looked at the knife, then up at her eyes. "I haven't touched anyone. But I know he has a congenital heart defect. I know you were paying for his treatment until Victor Archibald destroyed your career. And I know that right now you have exactly $12 in your bank account." Leo's hand trembled. The name Victor Archibald hit her like a physical blow. It was a name she hadn't spoken in 3 years. "What do you want?" she whispered. "I want to give you a job." "I can't work in finance. I'm banned. You know that." "I don't care about the SEC," Linner said, stepping forward. Leo retreated, lowering the knife. He walked into her apartment, his presence filling the small space. He looked around, taking in the peeling paint, the stack of overdue bills, the sheer desperation of her life. He didn't look with pity. He looked with anger. "I need a ghost," Linner said, turning to face her. "I have an army of analysts. They went to Harvard and Yale. They follow the rules. They color inside the lines. And tonight, they almost let me buy a $2 billion lie." He took a step closer. "You don't follow rules. You see things they don't. You see the fraud, because you've been the victim of it." "Get to the point," Leo said, crossing her arms to stop them from shaking. "Victor Archibald," Linner said. "He's launching a new infrastructure fund next month, the Neo-Link project. He's trying to raise $10 billion. If he succeeds, he becomes untouchable. He enters the elite bracket. He wins." Leo felt the bile rise in her throat. Archibald, the man who had smiled while he testified against her, the man who had patted her shoulder as security escorted her out of the building. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to kill the deal," Linner said. His voice dropped to a conspiratorial whisper. "I don't want to just beat him. I want to obliterate him. I want to expose him for the fraud he is. But he's careful. His books are clean. Or at least, they look clean to my team." Linner reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a bottle of pills. It was the medication Liam needed. He placed it on the scarred kitchen table. "I don't need a waitress, Leo. I need a weapon. Come work for me. Off the books. You report only to me. You find the dirt on Archibald. You help me destroy him." Leo looked at the medicine. Then she looked at Linner. "And in return?" "In return, I pay you $200,000 a year. I cover Liam's medical bills at Mount Sinai. And when we're done, I use my legal team to reopen your case and clear your name." The silence in the room was heavy. The rain hammered against the window. This was a deal with the devil. Lina Sterling was a shark, just like Archibald, but he was a shark offering her teeth. Why? Leo asked. Why do you care about Archibald? Lina's eyes darkened. For a second, the cool CEO mask slipped, revealing something jagged underneath. Because before he framed you, he ran a pump-and-dump scheme on a tech startup in 2015. My father invested his retirement fund in it. He lost everything. He committed suicide 3 months later. Leo stared at him. The titan of Wall Street, the man made of ice, had a scar just as deep as hers. He destroyed us both, Lina said. Help me bury him. Leo picked up the medicine bottle. She gripped it tight. The fear was still there, but beneath it, something hotter was igniting. Rage. Pure, unadulterated rage that she had suppressed for 3 years. I don't have any clothes, Leo said. I pawned my suits years ago. Lina pulled a black American Express card from his pocket and laid it next to the pills. Be ready at 7 a.m. The car will be downstairs. He turned to leave. At the door, he paused. One more thing, Leo. Yes? When you walk into my building tomorrow, you are not Leo the waitress. You are Leo the executioner. Act like it. The Sterling Capital headquarters was a 60-story needle of glass and steel piercing the Manhattan sky. It was a fortress of wealth, a cathedral to capitalism. At 7:15 a.m., the lobby was already buzzing with the morning rush. Men in $5,000 suits and women with sharp heels clicked across the marble floors, clutching coffees and smartphones, trading futures before they even reached the elevators. When the revolving doors spun, the rhythm of the lobby faltered. Leo Vance stepped out. She was unrecognizable. The tired waitress in the oversized uniform was gone. In her place was a woman wearing a tailored charcoal power suit that fit her like a second skin. Her hair, previously messy and tied back, was now sleek and sharp, framing a face that wore no makeup other than a bold, blood-red lipstick. She wore stiletto heels that struck the floor with the sound of a judge's gavel. She didn't look down. She didn't adjust her collar. She walked straight toward the security turnstiles with a terrifying purpose. The guard, a burly man who usually stopped everyone without a badge, blinked. He started to step forward. Miss, I need to see ID. She's with me. Lina Sterling emerged from the private elevator bank. The lobby went silent. It was rare for the CEO to be seen on the ground floor. He walked over to Leo, his face unreadable. You're late, he lied. It was 7:16. Traffic, Leo replied, her voice cool. The driver you sent is cautious. I prefer aggressive. Lina's lip quirked upward. Follow me. He led her past the gaping analysts and secretaries, straight into the private elevator that required a retinal scan. As the doors closed, shutting out the noise of the lobby, the tension in the small metal box spiked. You clean up well, Lina said, pressing the button for the top floor. It's amazing what money can do, Leo said, staring at the floor numbers ticking up. So, what is my title? Executive assistant? Secretary? Consultant, Lina said. Special operations. You don't have an office? You work in my conference room? You don't talk to the other VPs unless I say so. They will hate you. They will think you're sleeping with me. They will try to undermine you. Let them try, Leo said. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse office, a sprawling space with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a 360-degree view of the city. In the center of the room was a massive glass table covered in monitors. This is the war room, Lina said. He gestured to the screens. That is Archibald's Neo-Link prospectus. Leo walked to the screens. It was massive, thousands of pages of data. Archibald was building a transcontinental fiber optic network connecting New York, London, and Dubai. It was billed as the future of high-frequency trading. The IPO was set to be the biggest of the decade. He's partnering with the Sovereignty Fund of Dubai, Linner explained, pouring himself a coffee. And he has backing from the Federal Reserve. On paper, it's the perfect deal. High infrastructure yield, government backing. There is no such thing as a perfect deal, Leo murmured. She sat down, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Archibald is greedy. He always leaves a back door for himself, a way to skim off the top. My team has been looking for 3 months. They found nothing. Your team looks at the numbers, Leo said, typing her password. I look for the narrative. For the next 8 hours, Leo didn't move. She didn't eat. She barely blinked. She dove into the labyrinth of shell companies, contractor agreements, and environmental impact reports. Around noon, Julian Thorne, the man she had humiliated the night before, burst into the office. He stopped dead when he saw her. You have got to be kidding me, Thorne shouted, pointing a sausage-like finger at her. Linner, you hired the help. Is this a joke? Leo didn't look up from the screen. Hello, Mr. Thorne. I see you're wearing the same tie. Did you sleep in the office? Thorne turned red. Listen to me, you little... Julian, Linner said, his voice warning. She is working. She's a liability. Archibald is going to be at the galas next week. If he sees her, he won't recognize her, Linner said. Look at her, Julian. She's not Leo the waitress anymore. She's a shark. Now do you have the updated yield curves? Thorne huffed, threw a file on the desk and glared at Leo. One mistake. One slip-up, and I will personally throw you out the window. Noted, Leo said. By the way, Mr. Thorne, your zipper is down. Thorne looked down in panic. It wasn't. When he looked back up, Leo was smirking. Linner was suppressing a laugh. Thorne stormed out. You enjoy poking the bear, Linner noted. Bears are slow, Leo replied. Archibald is a viper. That's different. Suddenly her eyes narrowed. She leaned closer to the screen. Linner, look at this. Linner walked around the desk. What? The fiber optic cables, Leo pointed to a supply manifest. Archibald claims he's using Grade A military spec cabling from a supplier in Germany. It's the most expensive cable in the world. It justifies the $10 billion valuation. Right, we verified the supplier contracts. You verified the contracts, Leo said. But look at the shipping weights. She pulled up a maritime shipping log on a second screen. Military spec cable has a lead core for shielding. It's heavy, 500 kilograms per spool. But the shipping manifests from the German supplier show the containers weighed only 300 kilograms per spool. Linner frowned, doing the mental math. That's impossible. Unless it's not military spec, Leo finished. He's buying standard commercial cable, cheap, unshielded wire, and billing the investors for the premium stuff. He's pocketing the difference. That's roughly $3 billion in skimmed cash. Linner stared at the screen. It was right there, buried in the boring, mundane data of maritime shipping weights, a detail so small no banker would ever check it. He's building a $10 billion network with cheap wire, Linner whispered. It won't work. The latency will be too high. The whole project is a lemon. It's not just a lemon, Leo said, her eyes cold. It's a fraud. If we can prove he swapped the cables, the deal collapses, and he goes to prison for real this time. We need proof, Linner said. Physical proof. Shipping logs aren't enough for the SEC. We need a sample of the cable he's actually laying. He's keeping the inventory in a warehouse in the Bronx, Leo said, pulling up an address. But it's guarded. Linner checked his watch. Archibald is hosting a pre-IPO gala tonight at the Met. He'll be there, bragging to the press. All his key executives will be there. Which means, Leo said, realizing where this was going, The warehouse will be lightly staffed. No, Lina shook his head. It means we have to go to the gala. Leo froze. I can't go to the gala. Archibald will be there. Exactly, Lina said. I need you to walk right up to him. I need you to shake his hand. I need you to distract him, keep him occupied, keep him focused on you and me. Why? Because while you are keeping Archibald busy staring at us, Lina said, a predatory grin forming, Cole is going to break into his warehouse and steal a piece of that cable. Leo's heart hammered against her ribs. She had to face the man who destroyed her life. She had to stand in a room full of people who hated her, wearing a dress she couldn't afford, and pretend to be someone she wasn't. I can't do it, she whispered. Lina walked over to her. He placed a hand on her shoulder. It was warm, heavy, grounding. You told me you wanted to bury him, Lina said softly. This is the shovel. Are you in? Leo looked at the screen, the evidence of Archibald's greed. Then she thought of Liam, coughing in his sleep. She thought of the 3 years she spent scrubbing tables while Archibald drank champagne. She looked up at Lina. The fear evaporated, replaced by cold resolve. Get me a dress, she said. The Metropolitan Museum of Art was transformed into a glittering palace of light. The Temple of Dendor was bathed in gold spotlights. The air was filled with the sound of a string quartet and the murmur of billionaires discussing how to rule the world. Victor Archibald stood at the center of the room, holding court. He was 55, silver-haired, with a tan that came from spending winters in St. Bart's. He looked like a statesman. He was laughing, holding a glass of champagne, surrounded by fawning investors. The Neo-Link is the future, Archibald proclaimed. We are connecting the world at the speed of light. At the entrance, the crowd suddenly parted. A hush fell over the room. Lina Sterling had arrived, and he wasn't alone. On his arm was a woman who stopped traffic. Leo was wearing a dress of midnight blue velvet that hugged her curves and trailed on the floor like liquid water. Her back was bare. Diamonds, borrowed from the Sterling family vault, glittered at her throat. She looked regal, dangerous. Who is she? The whispers started. Is that a model? A princess? Steady, Lina whispered to her, feeling her hand tighten on his arm. Breathe. I see him, Leo whispered. Her eyes were locked on Archibald. Don't look at him like you want to kill him, Lina murmured, smiling for the cameras. Look at him like he's amusing, like he's beneath you. They walked through the crowd. It was a gauntlet. Every eye was on them. Leo felt naked, exposed, despite the expensive dress. But she remembered the role. Executioner. Lina! Archibald's voice boomed. The older man pushed through the crowd, a fake smile plastered on his face. I didn't think you'd show up. Coming to beg for a piece of the IPO? Sorry, we're oversubscribed. Lina stopped, looking down at Archibald with mild disinterest. Victor, I'm just here for the open bar. I hear the champagne is the only thing about your company that isn't watered down. Archibald's smile twitched. His eyes shifted to Leo. Leo held her breath. This was it, the moment of recognition. Archibald's gaze raked over her. He looked at her face. He looked into her eyes. And he smiled blankly. And who is this lovely creature? Archibald asked, taking Leo's hand and kissing it. You have excellent taste, Lina. He didn't know her. She had worked for him for 2 years. She had taken the fall for his crimes. She had lost everything because of him. And he didn't even remember her face. To him, she had always been furniture. A cold, icy calm settled over Leo. It was liberating. If he didn't know who she was, he wouldn't see the knife coming. I'm Leo, she said, her voice smooth as silk. I've heard so much about you, Victor. Lina says you're a creative accountant. Archibald laughed, taking it as a compliment. Lina is just jealous. But tell me, Leo, what do you do? Model? Actress? I'm in waste management, Leo said, smiling sweetly. Waste management. Archibald blinked. Yes. I help dispose of trash. Lina squeezed her arm, a silent warning not to push too hard. Leo is my new strategic advisor. Advisor? Charming. Archibald dismissed her, turning back to Lina. Well, enjoy the party. By tomorrow morning, Neolink will be the most valuable infrastructure company on Earth. We'll see, Lina said. As Archibald turned away, Lina touched his earpiece. Cole, status? A crackle of static in Lina's ear. I'm in the warehouse, but we have a problem. Lina's face tightened. What problem? It's empty, boss. The warehouse is empty. There's no cable here. They moved it. Leo heard the voice through the shared earpiece. Her stomach dropped. Moved it where? She whispered. I found a shipping manifesto in the trash, Cole said. They moved it to the port. It's being loaded onto a container ship tonight. The Oceanus Star. It leaves for Dubai in 2 hours. Lina looked at Leo. The color drained from his face. If that ship leaves, the evidence is gone. Once it's in international waters, we can't touch it. Archibald will claim the cable was swapped in Dubai by contractors. He'll get away with it. They had 2 hours. Archibald was across the room, toasting his success. He had outsmarted them. He knew someone might check the warehouse, so he moved the inventory early. We lost, Lina whispered. Leo looked at Archibald. She looked at his smug, victorious smile. She thought of her father. She thought of the $12 in her bank account. No, Leo said. She pulled away from Lina. Leo, what are you doing? He's looking for a fight on Wall Street, Leo said, her eyes blazing. But I'm from Queens. We don't fight fair. She grabbed a glass of red wine from a passing waiter. Leo, don't make a scene. I'm not going to make a scene, Lina, she said, kicking off her heels. I'm going to make a distraction. What kind of distraction? The kind that gets the Coast Guard to stop a ship. Leo turned and walked straight toward the fire alarm on the far wall, but she didn't pull it. She stopped at the microphone stand on the small stage where the string quartet was playing. She grabbed the mic. The feedback squealed, silencing the room. Ladies and gentlemen, Leo's voice boomed over the speakers. Archibald froze. Lina watched, stunned. My name is Leo Vance, she announced. 3 years ago, Victor Archibald framed me for insider trading. The room gasped. Archibald dropped his glass. And tonight, Leo continued, locking eyes with the panicked billionaire, I'm going to tell you exactly where the bodies are buried. She wasn't just stalling. She was going nuclear. The silence in the Metropolitan Museum was absolute. The string quartet had stopped, bows hovering over cellos. 300 of the world's wealthiest people were staring at the woman in the midnight blue dress who had just hijacked the microphone. Victor Archibald's face went from confusion to a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. Cut the mic, he screamed at the sound technician. Security, get this crazy woman off the stage. But Leo didn't flinch. She gripped the microphone stand, her knuckles white, her eyes locked on Archibald. He wants me silenced. Leo's voice boomed through the hall, echoing off the ancient Egyptian temple walls, because he knows that I know about the Caymans. Account number 724, Bravo Delta. The shell company is called Blue Horizon Holdings. A ripple of shock went through the crowd. Phones were already coming out. People were recording. Archibald lunged forward, abandoning all pretense of civility. Shut up! You lie! Security! 2 large guards started towards the stage, but Lina Sterling stepped into their path. He didn't raise his fists. He simply stood there, radiating an aura of immovable power. He held up a hand, palm out. "Let her speak," Lina said. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried. "Unless you want to explain to the investors why you're afraid of a waitress." Leo took a breath. This was it. The point of no return. "He is telling you a lie," Leo continued, her voice gaining strength. "The Neo-Link project is a fraud. He claims he is laying military-grade fiber optic cables. He claims the infrastructure is worth $10 billion. But right now, at the port of New Jersey, the container ship Oceanus Star is setting sail with cargo that proves he is stealing from you." Archibald's face drained of color. He looked like a man who had seen his own ghost. "The containers on that ship aren't full of German engineering," Leo declared, pointing a finger at him. "They are full of cheap, unshielded copper wire bought from a liquidation sale in Shenzhen. He is swapping the inventory and pocketing the difference. $3 billion of your money is about to disappear into the ocean." The room erupted. It was chaos. Bankers were shouting into phones. Investors were cornering Archibald's CFO, who looked like he was about to vomit. "She's insane!" Archibald shrieked, sweat pouring down his forehead. "She's a disgruntled former employee. She was fired for fraud. You can't believe her." Leo smiled. It was a cold, terrifying smile. "You're right, Victor," she said softly into the mic. "I was fired for fraud. Your fraud. But here is the difference between then and now." She reached into her dress pocket and pulled out her phone. She held it up. "I'm live streaming," she said. "And I just tagged the Port Authority, the Coast Guard, and the SEC. I told them that the Oceanus Star is transporting mislabeled hazardous materials, which, legally, forces them to stop the ship for an immediate inspection." Archibald froze. The blood left his face completely. "The Coast Guard doesn't care about stock prices, Victor," Leo whispered, her voice booming like thunder. "They care about safety. They're boarding your ship right now." As if on cue, Archibald's phone began to ring. Then his CFO's phone. Then the phones of every board member in the room. The Oceanus Star had been stopped. Archibald looked at Leo. For the first time in his life, the billionaire looked small. He looked at the exits, but he realized with dawning horror that the room was no longer full of admirers. It was full of sharks who had just realized they were being fed scraps. "You," Archibald stammered, pointing a shaking finger at her. "You ruinous little—" "I'm not the victim anymore, Victor," Leo said, dropping the mic. The thud echoed like a gavel strike. "I'm the audit." The fallout was instantaneous and catastrophic. Within 20 minutes, the police had arrived at the Met, not for Leo, but to secure the perimeter. The news of the Coast Guard raid on the Oceanus Star hit Bloomberg terminals globally before the gala was even over. Lina stood by Leo's side as the chaos swirled around them. They were an island of calm in a sea of panicked billionaires. "Cole just texted," Lina said, checking his phone. "They opened the containers. It's copper wire, substandard, not even rated for underground use, let alone deep-sea transmission." "So it's over?" Leo asked. The adrenaline was fading, leaving her knees weak. "It's just beginning," Lina said. "Look." At the far end of the hall, FBI agents in windbreakers were pushing through the crowd. They weren't there for a social call. They headed straight for Victor Archibald. Archibald tried to run. He actually tried to push past a waiter to get to the service exit. It was pathetic. Two agents grabbed him by the arms. As they dragged him out, Archibald saw Lina and Leo standing by the Temple of Denda. He stopped struggling. He stared at Leo with a mixture of hatred and confusion. "You were nothing!" Archibald screamed, spittle flying from his mouth as the agent shoved him forward. "You were a coffee girl. I made you. I destroyed you. How did you do this?" Leo stepped forward. She didn't shout. She didn't scream. She simply looked him in the eye, her expression serene. "You didn't destroy me, Victor," she said. "You just taught me how to survive in the dark." The cameras flashed blindingly as Archibald was hauled away in handcuffs. The flashbulbs illuminated Leo's face, capturing the image that would be on the front page of the Wall Street Journal the next morning. The waitress who took down a titan. Lina turned to her. He offered her his arm. "Ready to go?" "Where?" "Somewhere quiet. I think you've had enough of high society for one lifetime." They walked out of the museum, past the stunned onlookers, past the paparazzi, and into the cool night air. The rain had stopped. The city lights reflected on the wet pavement, looking like diamonds scattered on black velvet. In the back of Lina's limousine, the silence was comfortable. Leo leaned her head back against the leather seat, closing her eyes. "You were good back there," Lina said softly. "I was terrified," Leo admitted. "That's why you were good. Fear makes you sharp. Arrogance makes you sloppy." Archibald forgot that. Lina reached into his jacket and pulled out a tablet. He tapped a few keys and handed it to her. "What is this?" Leo asked, opening her eyes. "It's a press release. Sterling Capital is issuing it in the morning." Leo read the headline. "Sterling Capital announces acquisition of Archibald Holdings assets. Leo Vance named Chief Strategy Officer." Leo stared at the screen. "Chief Strategy Officer? Lina, I don't have a degree anymore. My name is still Mudd until the courts clear me." "The courts will clear you. I have the best lawyers in the city working on it as of an hour ago. With the evidence from the ship, your conviction will be overturned within a month." "But Chief Strategy Officer?" Leo looked at him. That's a C-suite role. I was serving appetizers 24 hours ago. And 24 hours ago, I was about to lose $2 billion, Lina said. He turned to her, his gaze intense. "I don't hire resumes, Leo. I hire instinct. You have the best instinct I've ever seen. You saw what an entire army of analysts missed. I need you." Leo looked at the contract on the screen. The salary was 7 figures. It was a life she had dreamed of, a life she had mourned. "What about Liam?" she asked. "I can't be at the office 18 hours a day. I have to take care of him." "Bring him," Lina said instantly. "We'll set up a private care suite near the office. Or better yet, I'll hire a full-time nursing staff for your home. You dictate the terms, Leo. Just say yes." Leo looked at the man sitting next to her. He was arrogant, demanding, and ruthless. But he had also walked into a tenement building in Queens to give a sick boy medicine. He had stood between her and a raging billionaire. "I have one condition," Leo said. Lina smiled. "Name it. No more investment advice as a joke. If you want my opinion, you ask for it with respect." "Done," Lina said. He held out his hand. Leo took it. His grip was warm and firm. "Then I accept," she said. 6 months later. The restaurant Le Veau d'Or was bustling. It was the same room, the same smell of truffles and money. But the atmosphere at the head table was different. Lina Sterling sat at the head of the table. To his right sat Leo Vance. She wasn't wearing an apron. She was wearing a cream-colored silk suit. Her hair was down, loose and wavy. She looked radiant. The waiter approached the table. A young man, nervous, his hands trembling slightly as he held the wine bottle. He spilled a tiny drop on the tablecloth near Leo's elbow. The waiter froze, terrified. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I'll get a towel right away." The table went silent. The executives around them watched to see how the new chief strategy officer would react. Leo looked at the stain. Then she looked at the young waiter. She saw the exhaustion in his eyes. She saw the scuffed shoes. She saw herself. She smiled, a genuine, warm smile. "Don't worry about it," Leo said gently. "It's just a tablecloth. What's your name?" "David, Mum." "David," Leo said, reaching into her purse. She pulled out a business card, heavy stock, embossed with her name and the sterling capital logo. She handed it to him. "You have a good memory, David. I heard you reciting the specials earlier. You didn't miss a single ingredient." "Thank you, Mum." "If you ever get tired of carrying trays," Leo said, "call this number. We're always looking for people who pay attention to the details." The waiter took the card as if it were made of gold. "Thank you. Thank you so much." As he walked away, beaming, Lina leaned over to her. He took her hand under the table, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. "Poaching the staff," he teased. "Talent is everywhere, Lina," Leo said, squeezing his hand. "You just have to know where to look." Lina kissed her hand. "I know. I found the best there is." Outside the window, the New York skyline glittered, a city of steel and glass, of predators and prey. But in this booth, two lions sat together, watching the world they had conquered, not with claws, but with the truth. Leo Vance had served her last meal. Now, she owned the restaurant. And that is the story of Leo Vance. She proved that your current situation is not your final destination. Victor Archibald had billions, but he lacked the one thing Leo had: integrity. In the end, the waitress didn't just serve the food, she served justice. I hope this story inspired you to never underestimate yourself or the quiet person working hard in the background. You never know who is a genius in disguise. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more dramas about karma, justice, and romance, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new story. And tell me in the comments, if you were Leo, would you have forgiven the people who mocked you, or would you have taken revenge? Let's talk about it down below. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.